last night we mentioned a speech that Jacinda Ardern gave at the Lowy Institute. And I want to play a little grab from that again.
The honest reality is that the world is bloody messy. And yet, amongst all the complexity, we still often see issues portrayed in a black and white way.
Joining me tonight to talk about this and how the world is messy and not black and white is someone who knows a thing or two about the Chinese government. Nick Cater from the Menzies Research Center. He has written an expert demolition of what she has had to say about this. How concerned do we need to be about what Jacinda Ardern said here to the Lowy Institute?
I think extraordinarily concerned, James. At first I thought this just might have been an early draft written by a junior staffer that she picked up by mistake. But no, she said it, and it looks like New Zealand foreign policy, in which case they're starting this Cold War in the same position they ended the last one. That is to say, the fetal position, under the bed with their hands over their ears, like as if they could choose to be part of this contest between the free world and tyranny.
Well, yeah, and as you said, I'm really glad that you brought up what happened in the Cold War the last time around. Is China going to look at this and say, well, here's a great way that we can split English-speaking countries, we can split New Zealand from Australia, we can split up the Five Eyes. Is that where they're going with this?
I think that's exactly what they're trying to do. You know, you can see the way they have this divide and conquer principle. I mean, they almost got Victoria in their camp on the Belkin Road thing. But, you know, that fortunately the federal government stepped in. But, yeah, I mean, this is what China does. New Zealand is extraordinarily vulnerable. China is their biggest trading partner. You know, there are 2 million out of the 5 million cows in New Zealand effectively send their milk exclusively to China. That's how much milk they send there. So you can see that they're basically the closest thing we have in the West to a client state of China. But the great thing is that if they stand firm with the alliance, that'll be a very powerful message to China too. So that's what they must do.
And I know that there's now a challenger waiting in the wings now to take on Jacinda Ardern. Have you examined his positions on this issue? And do you think if there was a change of government, they would be more amenable to sticking back with the West?
I'd hope so. But you've got to remember that it was a National Party government, a very good National Party government in almost every regard, except for one thing in my view, and that's they did sign up to the Belt and Road policy before they left office. But, you know, those things can be undone, and I think they should be on the right side in this one, and Jacinda should realise there's some things that are actually black and white, and in the choice between tyranny and freedom, you know, we know which side we're on, no doubt.
Now, Nick, let's bring it closer to home. How do you reckon, and how do you rate the Albanese government's treatment in dealing with China? There's been some talk of recalibration. We had Pat Conroy saying we could maybe work together on some things. Malcolm Davis just said that's a bad idea. What do you reckon?
I think it's a very bad idea. And I think on the whole, the Albanese government has been first class on foreign policy. You can't hardly fault them. And I thought that the Albanese's reaction this week when China issued its list of 4 demands, we don't react to demands, was exactly the same. Exactly the right argument, and let's hope they can keep that backbone strong.
But it'd be good to see a similar sort of resolve out of New Zealand then.
It would, and Albanese. If John Howard was the deputy sheriff to George Bush, then Albanese must be Joe Biden's Kelpie, you know, trying to get Jacinda Ardern into the pen on the right side of the argument. He seems to get on very well with her, from what I can see. A little bit of chemistry, perhaps, there.
Yeah, well, that'd be good, because I spoke to a senior journalist in New Zealand the other day who suggested that actually, quietly, the Ardern government is more supportive of the U.S. than they are publicly. Do you think that there's any possibility that that is happening, or is that not your read?
Well, they have to be in the end. I mean, they rely on the US for their support through the ANZUS agreement, as do we. But we know with China what we need in the West, and New Zealand is in the West, is firm resolve, unified resolve, not an inch of difference between any Western country, because that's what really puts the heat on China.
So looking at this, do you think that we might see then New Zealand eventually, if things start to get too hot, which way do you think that they'll wind up falling?
Well, you'd like to think they go with us, but you want them to do something about their military, don't you? I mean,
where are they going to go with it?
The Greens in this country think that New Zealand has exactly the right kind of military force, the one they want to emulate. So that tells you all you need to know about it.
Which is basically no force at all.
No force at all. We'd like to see them contribute in that regard. Obviously, they're a smaller country, but every country has to do its bit, and let's hope that New Zealand really eventually comes over the line.